Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. So, my wife Amelia, 37 female, and I, 48 male, have one child, a son who is 7 years old, turning 8. I'm not going to lie. Had my wife not gotten pregnant, we probably would not have gotten married because we were just hooking up at that point. But things have been really good since we did, and we're firmly in love. We did decide we'd wait before having another kid, though, because I wanted her career to take off, for her business to boom. It has, and we decided earlier this year it's best to go for it now before she turns 40. The thing is that Amelia has a daughter, Kate, 17 female, from her first marriage. Things between my wife and Kate were rough, and I know this isn't going to make my wife sound good, but for the sake of honesty, I'll put it there. My wife had little to no contact with her for about 10 years. 2 years ago, Kate's father kicked her out for breaking his rules, and she showed up out of nowhere with a suitcase. I won't lie, there was always a sadness in my wife, but having Kate back in her life got rid of that. Since she moved in with us, Amelia has been happier than she has ever been. Kate's a troubled kid, but 2 years ago was a lot worse than now, and she's mostly blended well. The thing is, my wife has been very strict on some things, like school and all, but very lax about the things Kate's father was harsh about. Amelia found out she was pregnant about a month ago, and we decided to wait before breaking it to the kids. Except last week, Kate came home from school and had a breakdown, and she admitted to us that her boyfriend got her pregnant, and she's been hiding it for almost 2 months. She was crying because she wants to keep the kid, and kept it a secret because she was scared Amelia would force her to get an A. However, my wife was elated that we're going to be grandparents, and that cheered Kate up as well. So my wife made it clear to me that she finds the idea of having a kid younger than her grandchild to be disgusting, and she'd be getting an A. We argued about it because I really wanted this baby with her, but she wouldn't even listen to me, and she got an A. I've been upset about it, and we've barely talked. Am I being the a-hole? Looks like OP's wife thinks that parenting the grandbaby will make up for her lost time with her daughter. So in her mind, she doesn't need to have a baby, because one is on the way. I personally would divorce her straight away. The fact she unilaterally decided that she would be doing this, and then did it despite OP's objections, shows that she has no respect for OP, and doesn't care about their marriage and family. If she is elated to be a grandma, OP needs to let her. And now let's hear the community's opinion. K-Lark says, Kate will not be raising her child because she's a child herself. Your wife will raise them the way she would have with the baby she ate. By extension, you will be raising and supporting this child too. If you're okay with that, then so be it. I don't think I would be able to do that. Not the a-hole. Main Top 2881 says, I feel like the wrong person here is getting an A. Like, it makes more sense for the daughter to get an A. Like, I don't get the logic here. Waking Dreamland says, this is worthy of divorce. She terminated a planned and hoped-for baby for reasons that seem like complete nonsense. The babies, if I've done my math right, would only be a few months apart, so her excuse is BS, not the a-hole. My 34 female. Life is falling apart, and it's all thanks to my husband. We had a perfect life. Both of us worked in the jobs we loved. We had a beautiful daughter, 10 female, and a healthy son, 5 male. When I was pregnant with our son, we both almost died due to complications. So before the birth and even afterwards, I didn't want to have S. Why would I? I almost died, and my body was in pain for months afterwards, even with strong medication. I thought my husband understood because he never pushed me for S or even asked. I thought it was because he understood my pain, but apparently, he was just getting it from somewhere else. A few months ago, we were visited by Child Protective Services. I was terrified at first, frantically thinking of what we did wrong with our children to cause a visit. But no, as it turns out, some woman I've never met before died in a car accident leaving behind a daughter, and my husband's name was on the girl's birth certificate, and he was named in the woman's will as the father. I thought it was a mistake at first, until my husband told me the truth. As it turns out, while I was suffering my pregnancy and the after effects of almost dying, my husband would go to a woman he knew at work and get off with her. He said this as if he did me a favor. Well, as the CPS worker explained to us, my husband is her closest living relative that can care for her. The woman's family apparently wanted nothing to do with the poor little girl. When she asked us if we wanted to take her in, I said yes. Yes, I know this might be the true cause of all my issues, but my husband pawned that poor girl off to live with her single mother for 5 years. He doesn't get to pawn her away when she needs help. She's his responsibility, and now is ours. I told him I'll help take care of all the necessary visits for wellness checks and help with whatever CPS wants us to do. All he had to do was explain everything to our children. The fact I'm saying this tells you what he did. Yes, nothing. We had to clean out a room and buy new furniture, and even looked for some toys. Our children go to a private school, so I picked up some more work hours in order to be able to afford her tuition. I was the one who had to tell our extended families the big change, because he didn't want to do so. I did almost all the heavy lifting. So, color me shocked when his daughter finally joins our family 2 weeks ago, and the first words out of our children's mouths was, "Who's that?" Yes, I was the one who had to tell our children's school, extended families, family doctors, and my workplace about my husband's affair and subsequent addition to our family. But he couldn't tell our children, being he was too ashamed to face them. So guess who was the one who had to explain that they have a sister now, as I'm trying to settle the poor girl into her new home and room? And shocker, our children didn't take the news well, as it was happening right in front of them. My daughter was screaming while crying, causing my son and the little girl to cry. A situation that could have been avoided if my husband just did the one thing I asked of him and explained everything to them much sooner. It's been 2 weeks of her living with us, and the situation hasn't improved. My husband has not picked up the slack that comes with having a new addition to the family, so we're struggling right now to make ends meet. I feel embarrassed bringing all 3 children around for appointments and groceries because the little girl is very much obviously not mine, and I can tell people are judging our family. My daughter is much moodier and less happy and refuses to even acknowledge our newest addition to the family. Our son doesn't really understand what is going on, and it's causing even him to lash out. And I don't even know how to help the poor little girl because I know that if I feel my life is falling apart, she must feel even worse. I suggested family therapy, therapy for our children, even just marriage therapy so we can hopefully move past this and work together as a unit for all the children. He's refused everything, saying that he knows he'll be lectured by everyone when all he was doing was trying to help me. I just don't know how to fix this. Please help me. I don't want to divorce him because I just know that it will make it worse for the kids. But that's the only option my family is telling me. Meanwhile, his family is begging me to make this work and to just look past it. OP needs to take her babies and go. He can hire a sitter to care for his daughter. OP's first priority has to be her kids, and her daughter sounds like she is not doing well. Of course, a fair child is not at fault for her parents' actions, and as OP says, must feel even worse as she lost her mother. But OP needs to prioritize her kids and their well-being, and divorce I think would be the best option here. I don't know why OP says that divorce would make it worse. I personally don't think so. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Usually Right 2 says, "The kids need therapy. If he won't go, that should tell you a lot. He doesn't give a crap about any of you. And also, doing you a favor? What the actual hell? None of these kids asked for this. You didn't ask for this. He created all of this mess and won't help to fix it. I'd be talking to an attorney second, but therapist first." Orangey Ogre says, "Tell his family your cowardly piece of crap husband is avoiding everything. He thinks that if he buries his idiotic head into the dirt, everything will resolve itself. Sadly, things are being resolved because he has you. You stepped up to the plate and handled everything. This allowed him to pass on his responsibilities to you. Tell him choices have consequences, and now he is afraid to get blamed for his choices. If he makes the choice to avoid his duties as a father and husband, then there will be further consequences. You haven't even gone after him for his freaking affair. Did the little girl know that your husband is her father? Lastly, you did the right thing. You really do have a huge heart to accept her into your family. I really do hope you find a way to have her fit in and make things work, with or without your husband." Jen5872 says, "He was trying to help you? What a crock of horse pucky. Contrary to your husband's opinion, people don't die from a lack of S because their partner is physically unable to have S with them. Does he not have working hands? Then he just abandons his kid. What a putz of a husband, a spineless putz, considering he couldn't even bring himself to tell your kids. I don't know how your marriage survives this, especially since he has no remorse because he doesn't think he did anything wrong." When I, then 19 male, was home for the summer from college, my sister, then 17 female, was reveling in being the only child in the house. My sister is the baby of the family and acts like it. We generally get along, but she could occasionally be a spoiled brat. I'm the opposite of my sister. For most of my childhood, I was a bit of a doormat. Classic middle child, very well behaved and under the radar. I didn't fight back much, did as I was told, and generally behaved. The biggest shakeup I brought to the family was when I came out as gay at 17. No one was really bothered by it, and my family is generally pretty supportive. Still, it was a difficult thing to process, and I'm glad I got to the point I have today. This is relevant to the story. Now, at the time, I was a much better and more responsible driver than my sister, and as a condition for staying at home for the summer rent-free, my parents would occasionally ask me to drive my sister to and from places they didn't want her driving, usually longer distances or on the highway. For the most part, I did not mind. I love my sister, and we generally get along very well. But like I said, she can occasionally be a real brat and has trouble when things don't go her way. One night, my sister had gotten tickets to attend a concert with a boy she liked. As my aunt and uncle were in town and my parents wanted to spend the afternoon having a few glasses of wine out on the patio, they asked if I would be okay driving my sister to the concert that evening. I accepted and figured that was that. My sister and cousins decided they wanted to look at some new outfits and asked me to drive with them to the mall. Being the good brother, cousin I was, I piled them into the car and took them to the mall. All was well until my sister decided I was getting on her nerves over something, and we got into an argument. Wasn't a big deal until my sister, visibly annoyed, rolled her eyes and said, "You don't have to be such an F about it." I saw red. I had been called this word before and have been able to shrug it off, but from my own family? I was not going to take it. I could have yelled, argued more, or even stooped to her level, but it suddenly came over me what I was going to do. It was simple. I was not going to drive her to the concert. I told her as much, and she smirked to tell me, "Yeah, right, like mom and dad are going to be okay with that." Now, when we got home, I went to my parents, explained what happened, and let them know I would not be driving her to the concert. To my complete lack of surprise, they took her side and explained to me they understood I was upset, but I would still need to take her to the concert. My sister's smug look was all I needed. "No," was all I said. My parents seemed confused and then explained that it was not an option. I simply said, "You cannot make me. I do not care what you do. I will not drive her." Years of resentment over having to be the good sibling finally spilled out, and I simply said no. My parents, a few glasses of wine deep, tried everything. They threatened to ground me, yelled at me, threatened to take my things, got in my face, and I held my ground. I told them I would take any punishment they wanted, but no one could force me to drive her. At one point, I even looked my father in the eye and said, "Tell me it's okay for her to call me an F. Tell me it's okay for anyone to do that." And my parents didn't know what to do. They were too drunk to drive, and it was too late to ask anyone else. My sister refused to apologize, but as we got closer to the time we had to leave, I could tell she was starting to panic. The rage on her face was building up, and it was the sweetest revenge I could ask for. For once, she wasn't going to get her way, and there was nothing she could do about it. Nothing would make me do it. This was the hill I would die on. My sister ended up missing more than half of the show and cried the whole night. It's what she deserved. As for me, my parents never even ended up punishing me. Maybe they were too stunned to do anything, or more likely saw that I was right. But from that point on, I had no problem setting boundaries as needed. I could be kind, but I wasn't going to be my family's doormat. DH Canada says, "I simply said no. I aspire to be more like UOP. I understand why this story means a lot to you. If I may, though, I think it's much more significant than petty revenge. After years of being a people pleaser, you set an immovable boundary grounded in self-respect, one that seems to have changed your family dynamic. Pretty damn huge. Congratulations." Xaviera says, "How did this not create a rift in the family? And I'm not talking about missing half a concert. I'm talking about your parents not having your back over your sister's inappropriateness." Lyndon Lil Blue Ball says, "I think your parents finally got it when you told them to tell you it was okay to call you that. Still, pretty crappy of them not to punish her." Last week, 2 police officers knocked on my door to inform me that my husband A was in jail for getting into a fight with another man B over a young woman C. My husband and C were having an affair. It seems that B caught them and my husband decided to fight him. I didn't want to see my husband at that time. We'd always been a happily married couple. Furthermore, he was never a fighter. I don't know who this man is. I did visit B to find out what happened. He told me that C was acting suspiciously, and he found out she was cheating. He knew my husband was married because of their texts. He caught them in the act and threatened to tell me. It was a bluff because he didn't actually know. My husband decided to physically fight B to get the phone. The neighbors ended up calling the police and both of them got arrested. B seemed like a sweet, earnest young man. I can't believe my husband hurt the poor thing. He didn't have any criminal history. He had a lower bond than my husband. He didn't have the money or any family to help him out. I decided to bail him out instead. Eventually, my mother-in-law bailed out my husband. They've all been upset that I bailed out the other man instead of my husband. My husband has pleaded for my forgiveness. He says it's not a physical affair, but an emotional one. I'm trying to figure out if it's something that can be forgiven. Apparently, B was very manipulative and can put on an innocent face. My husband says he doesn't blame me for being manipulated, but said I shouldn't have done it. I feel that is condescending. Was I the a-hole for bailing out B? UC Killa says, not the a-hole. I would have changed the locks on those doors so fast and packed their stuff and have it outside and tell them to only contact me through my lawyer. OP, your husband is a piece of crap, and I hope you divorce him and get everything. Men like that are what give us good men a bad reputation. Far Aspect 1760 says, what exactly were they caught in the act of if the affair was emotional? OP says, according to my husband, they weren't doing anything, just embracing. B never mentioned what they were caught in the act of. Amazing Maine says, not the a-hole. Your husband is a cheater, and you had no reason to bail him out for getting in a fight because of his cheating. Plus, bailing out B let you get the story from him on what actually happened, whereas if you bailed out your husband, he would have tried to spin a lie first. Another thing, your husband says it was emotional, but why would you even trust him? He is a cheater who has been lying to you and will continue to lie, especially if he wants your forgiveness. He's trying to lessen the cheating to make you take him back when there's a very, very good chance it was physical. Why else would he be so worried about the evidence of his cheating that he would fight B over it?